Assalamu alaikum. I'm Alia Zaka from Group A, and my group members are Ayman and Kalsoom. And our topic of presentation is Pakistan and USA relationships. First of all, I discuss the introduction of Pakistan. Pakistan is fifth largest country in the world by population and ranked as 44th largest economy in 2022 according to IMF. Located in South Asia, holding great strategic importance, bordered by China on northeast, India on east, Iran on the west, Arabian Sea on the south. Pakistan has ideal location on world map. It is also called a gateway to Central Asia. Location is unique for trade. Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan, they are very rich in natural resources, but they don't have their own sea for shipping. They have to pass through the land of Pakistan to reach sea for transportation. Second strategic significance of geographical location is that Pakistan is in proximity to great powers located at junction of great powers. Its significance enhanced by the alliances among the superpowers like USA, China, and Russia. Now we look at the economic and political condition. Economic system always dominated by military and civilian bureaucracies. In 1947, there is a biggest shock to the economy when New Delhi opened trade war against Pakistan. Despite such an auspicious beginning, Pakistan did surprisingly well in building its economy. According to 2017 survey, economy grew at an average rate 6.5% per annum, 25 times larger than in 1947. Population increased 6.5 times. Output of industrial sector increases 300 times. Population is proportion of poverty also declined. On the other side, there is always political instability. Political history divided into several eras, some of which were governed democratically and others by the military. Nation has faced three martial laws and subsequent fall of governments. And other loss was the fall of Dhaka in 1971. Pakistan faces political instability from 1947, due to which economy is also affected, and now there is and now country facing severe political instability and economic downfall. Inflation rises to 24.5% in December. Data shared by Pakistan Bureau of Statistics. Pakistan is going through a stagflation nowadays, a phenomena when economic slowdown and high rates of inflation coexist. Already fragile situation worsened when floods destroy almost half country's agricultural land and sweeping away entire villages. This is the economic and political condition of Pakistan. Now we discuss some US and Pakistan relations. US established diplomatic relations with Pakistan from 1947. Work with Pakistan on wide area of issues, energy, trade, investment. USA has been one of the largest sources of foreign direct investment. Trade and investment relations continue to grow. There is some bilateral economic relations. USA has been Pakistan's largest export market. USA has also been a leading investor in Pakistan. Direct investment in Pakistan increased by 50%. Major US investments are concentrated in consumer goods, chemicals, energy, and agriculture. US also provides civilian assistance to Pakistan. Primary focus is to partner with Pakistan in its development towards security, stability, and prosperity. And this is all the brief introduction of Pakistan from my side.
Let's have a look at the trade route of USA. First, trade route with Middle East. So, as we know that Middle East is a major trading partner with USA. USA has been the top exporter country for UAE, including all the Middle East and North Africa region. It is also called as MENA. Morocco, Bahrain, and Oman are one of the significant trade partners of USA. USA signed free trade agreements with these respective countries. The exchange of goods occur mostly through sea routes as shown in the map. Now, if we look at the trade route between USA and Asia, so we can see there's a trans-Pacific trade route, and it is one of the biggest and the best trade route connecting Asia with North America. The trade carried out using this route constitute 19% of the total world trade and 40% of the total East world trade. Now we can see the trade route with Pakistan and USA. So as you can see in the map below, most of the trade occurred through sea and ocean routes by mostly ships, vessels, and boats. Between the two countries, there is a long air distance of about 12,076 kilometers. Pakistan has 8 major seaports which are used for trading. Among these, two are the most important, the Gwadar port and the Mohammed bin Qasim port. Now let's have a look at the trade dynamic of USA. So as you know that trade is not a stagnant process; it goes through different changes. So it tells us that what markets tell you. It doesn't mean that you make it up as you go along. It means that you will shape your trade policies that will maximize your chance of winning. So below this topic, we are discussing the major trade eras of USA, major trade acts. Then Kusum will be discussing the IMF and WTO and their role in trade. And last but not the least, we are shedding some light on the import and export of two countries. So first is the three main era of trade era of USA. So before proceeding on to the trade policies or trade acts of USA, let's have a look at the trade eras of USA. So the first is revenue period. This period starts from 1790 and its end at 1860. This period is mostly marked by the USA mercantilist approach of trade. USA mostly imposed 90 tariff on imports, and it was not like it was not very liberalizing its trade policies. The next period comes as restriction period. So this period starts in 1861 and ends at 1933. In this period, USA mostly signed the trade acts like Smooth Harbor Trade Act, and it imposed a tariff on imports of other country. But the thing is that tariff imports on this period were relatively lower than it imposed tariff in the revenue period. In this period, USA mostly generates revenue by imposing tax on imports and other goods. So the last is the reciprocal period. In this period, start from 1933 and it ends up till now. In this period, USA mostly changed all of its trade policies, and the major thing behind this change was the World War II. As you know, that World War II ended in 1945. So the major goal of the USA was to counter communism. So actually, it was making ties with the other countries so that it can expand its concept of capitalism. In this period, USA make other agreements, for example, RATA agreements or NAFTA agreements or free trade agreements. So now let's look at the major trade acts of USA. So first is the Smooth Harbor Tariff Act of USA. This act was signed in 1930, and this act was signed by the President Herbert Hoover. In this act, USA actually adopted protectionist trade policies. It imposed 20% tariff on 20,000 imported goods around the world. As you know that as USA imposed tariffs on the imports, so other European countries also retaliated, and as a result, there was a decrease in the 40% trade volume of the USA. As we know that the USA is a global superpower, so whatever done in USA also has an impact on other countries. So there was a report which was published after the Great Depression, and it said that 56% world trade was declined in 1929 from 1939, and it was partially due to this Smooth Harbor Tariff Act. And this act was heavily criticized because it further worsened the condition of economic condition of the USA and also the world. So the next main agreement in the USA history was the Reciprocal Tariff Act. This act was signed in 1934, and in this act, tariff was reduced from 50% to 46%. And this act was signed by the President Franklin Roosevelt. Following this act in 1962, USA further reduced tariff up to 12%, and it made 27 agreements with the 32 countries. The next act we can see as on the screen is Trade Act 1974. This act, for the first time, introduced Fast Track Authority. This authority allowed the president to make trade acts with different countries, and Congress can either deny or approve it, but it cannot delay the act as it has done in the past. This was renewed in 2012 by Obama, and under this act, USA joined WTO, WTO, GATT, and other and make other agreements. For example, NAFTA, which is free trade agreements with Canada, Mexico, and other and United States. Now, if we look at the top trading partners of USA, so they are the top trading partners of USA, and as you can see, India stands at 11 to 12%, and it constitutes about 1.8% of the total trade, whereas Pakistan stands on its seventh number and it constitutes 0.05% of total trade, and which was relatively a small portion as compared to USA because USA is our second major partner and it composed 11% of total trade. So we are not on that list because we are very lower. Now we can see the agreement with Pakistan. So there are two main agreements. These two agreements are signed under WTO. The first agreement was Trade and Investment Framework Agreement. It was signed in 2003, and the other was bilateral investment treaties, and it was signed in 2004. But both these agreements doesn't give any fruitful product to Pakistan because of some reservation from Pakistani stakeholders. Both these agreements work on the, you can say, betterment of women's rights and other social issues. So no big agreement signed between USA and Pakistan up till now. So now moving on to the Kusum part, the role of IMF in trade.
Thank you, Aman. And my topic of presentation is International Monetary Fund. The IMF is an organization which promotes global economic growth, financial stability, encourages international trade, and reduces poverty. The IMF was established in 1945 as a part of the Bretton Woods Agreement, which attempted to encourage international financial cooperation by introducing convertible currencies at fixed exchange rate. The headquarters of IMF is in Washington, D.C. We will see the IMF objectives. Basically, the objective of IMF is to promote international cooperation through a permanent institution, facilitate the expansion of balanced growth and international trade, and assist in creation of multilateral payment system which respect to common transaction between the members. The United States is the largest cumulative contributor to IMF and the largest voting bloc holding effective veto power for many decisions. The United States joined the IMF in 1945 and the Pakistan joined the IMF in 1950. Now we will see the IMF, what impact of IMF on Pakistan's economy. So, if we look at Pakistan's history of borrowing from the International Monetary Fund, some of the interesting facts come to light. Pakistan's history of knocking upon the IMF door started back in 1958. In the political era of General Ayub Khan, first took the country to the IMF route, signed an agreement to secure special drawing rights (SDR), 25 million a standby agreement, and the money was never withdrawn. Soon Ayub Khan finance team pursued again and again IMF program on 1965 and 1968 respectively. This time they withdrew around SDR 112 million and entire agreed about the amount of Pakistan, and Pakistan became the regular client to the IMF. After Ayub Khan, the Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in 1972 liked IMF so much during his tenure. Pakistan went to the IMF three times consecutively from 1972 to 1974, and then began again in 1977 and withdrew about SDR 314 million. After Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, General Ziaul Haq kept the same trend continue, and during his tenure with IMF as from 1980 to 1981, Pakistan went to the IMF twice and secured loan of SDR 2,187 billion, from which only SDR 1.079 billion was utilized. After the death of Ziaul Haq in 1988, the Benazir and Nawaz Sharif from 1988 to 1977, Pakistan went to the IMF about 8 times, and Pakistan withdrew about SDR 1.64 billion. Out of these, five were during PP government, while three were under the PMLN rule. In 1999, the General Pervez Musharraf toppled the Nawaz Sharif government and took over by the IMF. Loan seeking was not hesitate in reaching to the IMF and secured SDR 133 million in two attempts in 9 years. In 2008, Musharraf was replaced by the PP, and the PP secured the biggest IMF bailout package in our history, amounting to SDR 4.94 billion. Then PMLN came back on power in 2013 and keeping with tradition with the IMF and secure second largest loan amounted as SDR 4,399 billion as per IMF reviews. Basically, the objective of IMF was oh sorry. Next topic, please. The next topic is World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization is global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. There are 159 members in WTO. Pakistan and USA are also the member of WTO. And the WTO is a successor of General Agreements on Tariffs and Trade, created on January 2, 1995. The headquarters of WTO is in Geneva, Switzerland. Pakistan joined the World Trade Organization in 1995. The main objectives of WTO is to enforce the rules of international trade, provide a forum for negotiation and monitoring further trade and liberalization, resolve disputes, increase the transparency of decision making, cooperation with other major international economic institutions involved in global economic management, help in developing countries benefit from global trading. Uh, the criticism on WTO is that US promote free trade only those sectors which provide benefit it, and free trade provides more opportunities to the developed countries as provide access to the resources of developing countries. Now we will see the WTO and its impacts on Pakistan's economy. Basically, Pakistan is the participant of WTO since 1995. Pakistan is basically an agrarian country which has its main exports are cotton, textile, which make up its 60% exports earning, and rice also play an important part. United States is one of the top trading partner in Pakistan, and it offers an equitable trade in goods good test case of the relevance of promises trade rules. The critics accuse that US to promote free trade in the sectors which benefit it. As for the other sectors are concerned, it used to resort to protectionism. The US is the biggest supporter of WTO, and it enjoys a great influence in WTO, which is quite often to expand further markets. This well-planned and self-centric expansion provides benefits to the US. Tariff restriction and anti-dumping rules are the still exercised to not give access to the developing countries. Pakistan also faces such tariff restrictions and quota-related problems with US to for exporting of its commodities and cotton and textile products. The developed countries use WTO as a resourceful way to protect their industries. The US has opened the market of its textile and clothing selectively, which does not provide any benefits for Pakistan. The US used transitional safeguard measures to protect its domestic industries from sudden increase in import by introducing its own rules of origin to identify where textile products come from. This fluctuation in export developing countries bear losses. The US influence the WTO on agricultural policies also, and it affects the developing countries devastatingly, particularly those countries which have shortage of food. These policies only promote food through trading. These policies also discourage Pakistan to attain sustainability. This situation further worsen situation of country, and there will be a shortage of food in Pakistan also. The developing countries like Pakistan has been trying to build industries in their own country to reduce the dependency on import to save foreign exchange, which is also almost remain at low level. The reason behind this that Pakistan produces many goods in their own countries, but they have no such exporting forum due to high tariffs and barriers. This means we have there is no even trade distributions. Next topic. My next topic is the trades of imports and exports. We will see the major exports and imports of Pakistan. The major exports of Pakistan is cotton, textile products, furniture, leather articles, and are iron, steel, pharmaceutical products, aircrafts, and spacecrafts. Next slide. Now we will see the graph showing trade of USA and Pakistan. First, we will see the total trade of Pakistan. As we will see the graph, the imports and export of Pakistan followed a common trend line until 2000, where imports rose sharply and there are subsequent decrease in export. The main reason that Pakistan is involved in the war on terror, with augmenting aid from the USA. Pakistan started importing goods with no infrastructural development in the country. This leads to a major gap between export and imports and a never-ending trade deficit. As we see the total trade of USA, next slide. Total export and imports of USA shows a constant upward sloping trend. The USA suffered a trade deficit. The widening gap between the two variables started in 2000. The reason behind this was that Great Recession in 2000, where GDP growth fell by 3.9%, and again in 2007 and 2008. Financial crisis hit the economy, and we observe another dip in exports. So this was from my side. Now, Alia will explain further.
Okay, thank you so much, Kusum.
Okay, now my topic of presentation is four sectors of economy. Here we discuss fiscal policy, monetary policy, national income accounts, and balance of payments. First of all, fiscal policy is it involves change in government expenditure or taxation to finance a country deficit. During Great Depression in 1933, President Franklin D adopted expansionary fiscal policy. In 1977 to 2001, the government borrowed huge amount of funds from the public, which exceeded the expenditures, due to which the budget was in surplus for the first in USA history. The highest budget deficit of the US economy was 9.8% of GDP in 2009. Next, please. Monetary policy. Monetary policy is the set of measures taken up by the central bank or Federal Bank of USA that regulates the money supply in the economy to regulate economic growth. And here is the graph of the inflation rate and interest rate. Next, national income accounts. National income accounts. Amount of economic activity over specific period is determined by government using national income accounting techniques. GDP, GNP, and GDP per capita is used in national income accounts. From 1960 to 2020, we see that USA is far better than us, and the factors which are included in this are increase in exports, consumer spending, non-residential fixed investment, state and local government spending, and are other contributing factors to the rise in real GDP. GDP of two countries show a constant upward sloping as total amount of goods and services produced in both economies increase with passage of time. GDP of USA is higher than Pakistan due to high manufacturing industrialized economy. It is developed economy. Standard of living of peoples are also high. Next, the sector is balance of payments. A report that lists all financial exchanges took place between citizens of one country and rest of globe over specific period of time. Also tracks the flow of money that is used to grow the economy. When import exceeds exports, there is balance of payments deficit. Exports exceed imports, the balance of payment is in surplus. Now we talk about the USA balance of payments. In 1960 and 70, USA had either a surplus or a tiny deficit, but in 1980s, major deficit began, which grew throughout 1900s and 20s. Trade deficit has been made responsible for deficit, but it is not problem for the American economy. Stronger economy may lead to a greater trade deficit as consumers spend more and import more goods. Next slide. Now there is the graphical representation of the annual growth rate of both USA and Pakistan country, and there is a comparison. Annual growth rate of Pakistan shows many up and down fluctuations due to instability of its political system. The main prominent dip is observed in 1973. It was due to two main reasons. One was fall of Dhaka in 1971 and nationalization policy, and the second and most prominent reason was the global oil crisis in 1973. The sharp increase in growth rate was in 2001. The reason behind this is West financial aid from USA because of Pakistan's participation in war on terror. The annual growth rate of the USA shows a stable economy as it maintained GDP growth at 8.4% on average. Next slide. Remittances from the balance of payment. Pakistan has a higher remittances ratio to GDP as compared to USA. The reason behind this, a large proportion of the population lives around the world of Pakistan. In fiscal year 2022, Pakistan received over $31 billion remittances with an increase of 6.1% annually. On the other hand, the USA has a considerably lower ratio as most of the nationals live in their own country. Next slide. Human Development Index. In this slide, the Pakistan and USA had both the human HDI of USA is far greater than Pakistan because the economy of USA is developed and standard of living of peoples is also high. So this is the main reason why the HDI of USA is greater than Pakistan. Next slide. Terms of trade. Terms of trade, it is the ratio of export price index to import price index. Shows how much a nation is gaining from international trade. As shown above, the USA is having a constant term of trade showing its sustainable growth. Pakistan's term of trade deteriorated after 2000 as Pakistan indulged itself in war and terror. Imports considerably increased compared to the country's production and the trend follow up to 2022. So that's why there is a trade gap between imports and exports. Next slide.
Okay, so that's all from our side. In this presentation, we'll try to cover up the Pakistan and USA trade ties between the two countries. Starting from earlier, we have an introduction of Pakistan, and then we saw the trade dynamics of the two countries. So the main lesson that we learned from this presentation is that we should try to foster our trade relation with other countries too, including the USA, because as you can see that we are not in the top 15 trade partners of USA, but India is. At the start, Pakistan chose USA bloc when there are two blocks of Russia and USA, so Pakistan choose to tie with to have a relation with USA. But still, India has a greater trade portion than Pakistan. So the main thing is because of the Pakistan unstable economic growth and uncertainty in politics, the main focus of USA is on India rather than on Pakistan. So Pakistan should try to maintain its trade and economic fundamentals on its stable growth rather than on financial aid from USA. It also Pakistan should also made some agreements with other countries, for example, with China and also other countries, so it can also help in boosting Pakistan economies. So that's all from our side. Thank you so much.